It was current Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's United National Party that was expected to win the local council elections held in the island nation of Sri Lanka on Saturday. But the election was a clean sweep for the ruling coalition government's greatest rival, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Mr. Rajapaksa's newly formed party, Sri Lanka People's Party or SLPP, won 225 of the 341 local councils across the country. Colombo's coalition is already in trouble with allegations flying between the president and the prime minister. This latest poll result is so decisive that Mr. Rajapaksa is already asking for snap polls to the country's parliament. The unexpectedly strong showing could lead to defections away from the centre-left party led by President Maithripala Sirisena. In any case, the results come as a humiliation for the ruling alliance. The local polls were the first local elections under the country's overhauled election commission since the unity government at the centre took office in August 2015. They had been delayed for long. The councils were dissolved more than 2 years ago after their tenure ended. Rajapaksa's Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna SLPP, a party formed by breakaway members of Sri Lanka's oldest freedom party of the ruling president, is now going for the jugular. The former president has demanded snap polls to the country's parliament. Sri Lanka's next parliamentary and presidential elections are not due till 2020. Ranil Wickremesinghe's UNP lagged as a distant second. It won only 41 councils, while President Sirisena's SLFP won merely 11. Former President Rajapaksa's party won comfortably in all regions of the country except in the north and the east, which were formerly the venues of one of the longest and bloodiest civil wars in the world. More than 100,000 people were killed in the 30-year-long war, which ended during Mr. Rajapaksa's presidency in 2009. In fact, Mr. Rajapaksa is acknowledged even by his bitterest opponents as the president who was able to end the seemingly never-ending war. In the north, the party, which is a leading component of the Tamil National Alliance, won comfortably but not unexpectedly. The Northern Provincial Council, with its headquarters in Jaffna, is ruled by a distinguished legal luminary from Colombo, Justice C.V. Vigneshwaran. Let's go straight to Beyond Senior Foreign Editor Padma Rao for more on this. Padma, it's over to you.
Thanks, Palki. In fact, we're joined from Colombo live by Namal Rajapaksa. He's a member of parliament and he's also Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa's son. Namal, great to have you back on WION. Congratulations on the stupendous victory. Now, tell me, your party, the Sri Lanka People's Party, is a relatively new party. Were you expecting such a huge victory?
Thank you, Padma. I think we were expecting a great victory out of these elections. Because actually, if you look at the way the government has been reacting for people's demands for the last 3 years, it has always been the government's point of view rather than actually delivering what people needed. So as a result, we as a joint opposition, we had to represent, even though we have 96 seats in the parliament as SLFP, 54 of us are seated in the opposition. And if you actually look at the opposition, we have the majority seats in the opposition, but yet we have been not regarded as the main opposition party, so we had to join as joint opposition. Where TNA only has 16 members and still hold the lead of the opposition, and JVP has only 6 members, and they have the chief organizer to the opposition.
Right.
So the government was not being responsive for the people's demands. So this is the clear indication of the election results.
Right. Namal, these are essentially local body elections. They're elections to your Pradeshiya Sabhas. Those are, for our Indian viewers, comparable to our panchayats. And nevertheless, very important elections. But your father, the former president, Mahinda Rajapaksa, is already calling for a snap parliamentary poll. Now, those are not due till 2020. Why is that? Why do you want a snap parliamentary poll now?
See, the people's verdict is very clear that the majority of the people are not with the government. And if you actually look at the government itself is at a crisis now. Even though they call this a unity government, we don't see any unity within the government. So you can't run a country like this. When the president represents one party, the prime minister on the other side of the same page, and they both seems to be not being able to agree upon anything that they should be that the country needs.
Right.
So, policy point of view, this government cannot last.
Right, and one of the places you won resoundingly in is Hambantota. Hambantota is, of course, your home constituency of all the Rajapaksas. Now, can you tell me why particularly in Hambantota, and does it have anything to do with stories that WION has done as well on the very controversial port deal with China?
Well, yes, of course. One of the main reasons is that the government's policy on agriculture and fisheries, and also, of course, the national assets. And Hambantota is one of those districts affected from all three of these. We have a very strong agricultural sector, which was badly affected by cutting down the fertilizer subsidy and the fixed price for paddy. And at the same time, the fisheries industry, the government are on the verge of privatizing the fisheries ports in this country. And of course, the controversial the port and the airport deal that this government is just about to finalize. And not only Hambantota, I must reiterate that the victory in Polonnaruwa, we managed to win 4 local councils. And if you look at overall, the majority votes in Polonnaruwa, the SLPP has got the majority votes in Polonnaruwa, the district that the current president represents. So that clearly shows that the people's frustration with this government.
Right. What about the north, Namal? You know, there is, of course, the extremely sensitive question of greater autonomy for the Tamil regions of the north and the east. That has, been on the agenda for very long. And the elections there have just been won by the Ilankai Tamil Arasu Katchi, which is a part of the Tamil National Alliance. What is your party's, what are your plans for devolution to the north and east? Should you go with, should there be snap polls, and should you be moving ahead and closer to the Parliament and the presidency?
No, I think the government has to go for a snap polls, because the only option this government is left to go for a general election and give the opportunity to the people to elect a strong people's government. But talking about the northern politics, yet the SLFP or the UMP or the JVP or SLPP is unable to go and establish ourselves in the north as a national political party. So as a result, it is evident that the northern people only have one option but to vote for TNA. So even though this government talks about reconciliation and unity, this government hasn't taken northern politics seriously, and they're depending on a regional political party, which will not help the Tamil youth. And if you look at the recent statements given by Honorable Sambandhan, with all due respect to seniority and his position, he categorically says that for Tamil youth not to demand for jobs and employment, but to wait for a devolution package. So Tamil people have been waiting for this for the last 30 years, and Honorable Opposition Leader wants them to stay for another 30 years.
Will they have to wait much longer if the SLPP manages to forge ahead and make it back to the presidency and the parliament? What are your plans for devolution for the Tamils?
No, we need to come up with a solid program where the southern and north both can agree. You can't give a devolution package only for north, and only north can accept. There are more Tamils living in Colombo than more Tamils living in our country. This issue has never been between Tamils and Sinhalese. If you look at the businesses in Sri Lanka, majority is controlled by Tamils. I'm sure they don't want to sell their business in Colombo and go and live in Jaffna.
Right.
No, that's not going to happen. So it has to be something that can be accepted by Sinhalese, Tamils and Muslims living in north and south. It's not but what Honorable Sambandhan wants, or it's not what Prabhakaran wanted. That is history. I mean, that's what all these regional political parties want. But we have to have a holistic approach where the entire country have to accept it.
Right. And a very last question before you go, Namal. I would request you to give WION a scoop. Should your new party, the Sri Lanka People's Party, actually form the next government at the centre, who's going to be Prime Minister? Is it going to be Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa? And is the new president going to be your uncle, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa? Come on, Namal, give us a scoop.
Well, it's a very difficult question. I mean, of course, the Prime Minister candidate is going to be the former President, my father, Excellency, President Mahinda Rajapaksa. And it is clearly evident with the majority votes that we have got on this election. And it is clear that the people voted for him. That's what they all say. And the campaign was based on President Rajapaksa. But about being looking at 2020's president election, as a party, we haven't decided yet. And my uncle hasn't taken a decision yet to get into politics, and he just arrived to Sri Lanka today. And even when media asked him about getting into parliament or in politics, he has said he hasn't decided yet. So we'll think about the next presidency once the time comes. But for now, our main objective is to go for a snap parliament election and form a very strong government which can actually take this country forward.
Right. We're not going to let you go with that question, but we'll let you go for today, Namal. Congratulations again. And I'm going to take you back to the studio to Palki Sharma Upadhyay.
Thanks very much, Padma, for bringing us that interview from Sri Lanka.